So today we'll start by talking about how to familiarize yourself with your issue and making yourself in a position to be an advocate issue. We're going to talk about how to participate within the political system through political parties and who to approach within the political party, and then how to lobby decision makers, and then how to stay on the agenda after you've been able to have some meetings and to get yourselves organized. So know your issue, and I think this is the most important thing is to do your homework, to be prepared. You want to be educated, I guess, not just about your specific field or your niche, but also the field around you. So you want to ensure that you become an expert or pretty well close to it in the field that you're working it with by familiarizing yourself with the literature, the debate, and the history of the issue. And often when elected officials make contact in the communities, they make a new contact on a certain field or topic, they want to be able to later call on you as a resource so that you're able to help them in their work as much as they're able to help you. And the same goes for the media as well. So you want to be able to develop a mutual relationship where you can be, a source of information for them. Obviously, being knowledgeable is a significant part of building your own credibility, so it's important there. And maybe by becoming a go-to source, you can more directly influence the discussion. So if you're able to put out your own syntheses of different of the literature on your field, or talking about your issue in a new and interesting way, and putting those resources out there, you're able to influence the discourse in a way that you otherwise wouldn't if you just simply took a position and didn't also have all of that background and context to be able to share with others. If the media is looking for someone for a quote or for statistics, they're going to be looking for an organization that's reputable and is able to provide these things. And by being able to be well informed and have a credible opinion, you'll be able to reinforce your position as that source of information, as a go-to organization, by being quoted in the media or by being used as a source for media articles. So, for example, Equal Voice, which is the organization that I volunteer with, and we work on electing more women to politics. So all different kinds of levels, and a big focus of ours is on the federal level. And every election season, we take statistics that we compile ourselves through volunteers and our staff that look at where political parties are nominating female candidates, and look at which ridings they're nominating, and winnable or unwinnable ridings, and we compare those statistics. So this is something that's not available otherwise. It's something that's able to reinforce our main argument, our main push to elect more women, because it demonstrates, look, there aren't, women running in winnable ridings. There aren't women who are enough women who are nominated by certain parties, and we need to change this. By gathering our own statistics, we're able to prove our point. And often these statistics are quoted by media and are sourced by different actors. And this is a way for us to be able to build up our credibility as a source of information, not just opinion as well, or not just a position. So, and MPs and MPPs, members of provincial parliament, or members or MAs, are often call upon community groups to build their own case for legislation. So sometimes an MP, for example, will want to go to a community group to say, to get their endorsement for a piece of legislation he or she has already planned on putting forward. So you can be a part of their work as well. Part of educating yourself is also being able to, you want to position yourself to be an advocate and a spokesperson, and you need to be able to answer the tough questions at any time. So this is an important part. A big part of it is also being able to read up and be familiar with opposing and alternative views. This is often a step in the research or education process that people are quick to dismiss for the sake of time or other considerations. But I think it's really important to be able to be in touch with what other people are saying on the issue, whether it's completely opposed to you or presenting another solution. So This is important for, a number of reasons. You don't want to lose touch with, first of all, with the larger or mainstream discourse. You want to still be connected with what the majority of people are seeing. So I'll just use this quick anecdote. For example, when I first got involved heavily in the feminist activism, I was very proud of myself in that I had found a community of female, feminist activists in a comfortable environment, and would spend a lot of time just listening to feminist influenced music and spending time at the Women's Resource Center on campus. And it got to the point where, I would go, step out onto the rest of the campus and be confronted with images of misogynist images or sexist themed events like bikini contests or events that are themed, corporate bros and office hoes and things that just scream sexism. And I know, for example, if I had not, if I'd been reading mainstream media or if I had been listening to, popular radio, I wouldn't be asking the question, how on earth can my peers be so sexist and misogynist? Just by being in touch with what everyone else is influenced by is going to strengthen the perspective that you're able to relate with people that you're reaching out to for social change, and you'll have a better sense of your environment. So in addition to that, you're also going to be avoiding the preaching to the choir habit that can also incur. But a bigger part of it, and this goes more specifically to what we're talking about, which is the political influence, it's important to keep in mind that when you're advocating for a position or a specific social change, you're doing it at the expense of the status quo. And you're also presenting an alternative where there may be many other alternatives also available. So part of being a good advocate for your project or issue is the ability to demonstrate that it's the best option against all of the other options that are available, and then making the case that a change is necessary, and also specifically that the change you're advocating for is necessary. So by being knowledgeable about the issue area from all perspectives, you're able to defend and advocate for your position. Decision makers are constantly approached with different ideas and solutions and projects, and a big part of their job is to weigh those different options and variables against one another and against the cost of changing how things are currently done, because it's often easier not to present a big monumental change. So when you're advocating for your position, you're approaching a decision maker, you're lobbying, you want to be able to present your argument in a way that helps them weigh their choices. And puts you in a stronger position if you're able to show, the cost-benefit analysis of going with your project, your idea, versus the other options that are there, and versus presenting your idea as if it were in a vacuum. So it's important to be aware in that sense, and also to know the key actors, organizations, leaders in the field that you're working in. So depending on the issue area, there are often more often than not, an existing base of actors, organizations, and leaders are already responsible for or doing something in the broader field. So you may be focused on a micro issue in your area of focus, where there may be a broader issue. So, for example, if you're focused on addressing violence against women, specifically educating young women on the issue and addressing it with them, you want to know what other groups that are also concerned with the issue, so other groups that may overlap with yours, but you also want to familiarize yourself with those groups that look at violence against women broadly, those that work with young women, and those that educate young women, or even those broad-based groups that do women's advocacy. These are your networks, so you don't necessarily need to just look at people who are doing the same exact things, but anyone that may overlap may have other networks that you can tap into and overlapping interests on a broader agenda. By knowing who the key players are in your micro and macro issue fields, it's an important part of your research, because it enables you to see where you can and where you do fit in, and also what new, unique, or specific niches you're able to fill as an organization or as an individual, given the broader field. So once you've established kind of your view about what's important to you, your issue, where your organization's going, how it fits in, you can start advocating for yourself and for your organization. So I thought I'd start by talking about political parties first before we move on to engaging them as an organization. So I think it's really important that we keep in mind that, you know, in our parliamentary system of governance in Canada, you know, the political parties are a significant driver of that political system. You know, political parties are what determine who sits in the cabinet, who are the ministers of all of our departments, and who is responsible for various portfolios. Those are all decided by the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister is, you know, as we know, the leader of a political party, not someone we directly elect. So the political party has a lot of influence in that sense. Political parties also assign their members of parliament or members of provincial parliament or MLAs to the committees that are within the various legislatures. So people debating these issues come at it from a partisan perspective, from a perspective that's informed by their political parties when they debate the issues at the committee level. So political parties have a significant deal of influence and are important in determining issues. So decisions aren't made by members of parliament or parties alone, but they are made in consultation with the respective political parties, which includes members of the political party, which can be anyone who has membership, as well as the committees of the party, the various caucuses, and the executive of the political party. So the structures of political parties, I find, are often confusing to the general public because you know, the inner workings are rarely discussed and are often very removed from the average citizen. Most Canadians are nonpartisan, meaning that they don't always you know, share an alliance with a certain party or support a party consistently throughout their lifetime. Most people don't have party membership and they don't attend conventions and they don't nominate local candidates. I personally think that this is a very unfortunate given the depth and breadth of influence that political parties have over our political system. And I think we do need to do a great deal to fix that gap. Because at the end of the day, political parties do make a lot of important decisions. So political parties' roles include establishing party policy. And these are the party policies that are what guide elected representatives in their work in the House of Commons, the Senate, or legislature. In addition, this is where, you know, we elect the leader, as I'd mentioned earlier, which is important whether that person is the Prime Minister or the leader of the opposition. All of these things are necessary. Political parties also nominate candidates to run at the riding level, and they also promote the party to the greater public, including specific demographics like youth and women, racialized minorities, and the LGBTQ community. And of course, another big role is getting membership to the political party. So I would present the work of the political party is happening on three main levels. On the first level and not in any order, I guess. The first one level is the convention, usually biannual, so every 2 years, a party convention, at the riding level and at the committee level. So we'll start with convention. Convention is where all members of the political party, anyone who pays membership, is invited to go to attend the convention. You can fundraise to attend through your riding association or individually, and it's held in a different part of the country. In the province, it's held, you know, in different parts of the province. And convention is where political parties debate and work on policy. So any member, anyone who has membership can submit a policy proposal to the party. So let's say I wanted the political party to take a position on, you know, on ending violence against women, and we wanted to put that a specific policy in place with the NDP, for example. So I would present that, submit that policy, and it could be debated by all of the members who are present at the convention. And people meet in small groups, debate the policy, and then it goes to the convention floor where all of the members who are present can vote on that policy, debate it, amend it, and all of that. So it's a very democratic, involved process. Most political parties work this way. And although there are a lot of policies that are submitted, policy proposals, not all of them get to be debated, but those that do become a part of the party's policy and cannot be changed unless they're removed later at another convention or they're amended. But it's a very permanent thing, and members of parliament call on those and use that as a guide for what they're going to put forward in the House of Commons or the Senate or their provincial legislature. Also at convention is where we elect a leader or approve the leader the leaders give it an approval rating to the leader of the party, and we also elect members to sit on various committees, including regional committees, the executive, and also issue-based committees. So a lot of parties have committees that address, environmental issues, for example, and then you have caucuses, so a women's caucus of all the female members of the political party. So if you have an issue that's related to any one of those committees, it's really in your interest to go in and take part and become elected or participate with one of those committees in some way. Then there's the riding association. So those represent the party at the local level. They promote the party by hosting events in the riding, signing up members, hosting fundraisers, and they're responsible for electing the party's nominee in a given riding. The riding association exists in every riding where the party runs a candidate, and they work year-round, ultimately, to raise the profile of the party and the candidate. And then we'll go back to the idea of committees. Committees meet on a regular basis, depending on the political party and the scope of the committee. But again, this is where the specific policy issues are debated, where there's a check and balance on the work of the caucus, which is the members who are elected in the House of Commons or in the legislature. And they're in constant communication with the leader and with the caucus members, otherwise managing the party. There's a lot of influence with varying committees. And again, if you're interested in a specific issue, it's really valuable to get involved with the committee that's responsible for that issue and promoting it. And I've seen a number of examples of legislation that comes out of the committee specifically that's pushed to certain caucus members, to critics, or to cabinet ministers that comes from there that's later presented on the floor of the House of Commons, for example. So it's a very good place to get started. But of course, the party as a whole is really what's managing, as an institution or an organization, is where the election is run, the election campaigns, on all levels, including budgeting, advertising, messaging, the issues that are debated during the election, what the party prioritizes, are all or originate with the political party. So it's important to get involved on that level. Unfortunately, a lot of people are afraid of participating in a political party because they don't want to seem partisan. And I think this is a very misguided fear. I think partisanship can be a very valuable tool, especially when we just recognize, as I just pointed out, how important a political party is to the process and to the system. So partisanship is very much not mutually exclusive with being an objective voice on an issue. So though and it can be such that, though your organization is nonpartisan or multipartisan in nature, you as an individual, must be effectively engaged in the political party to get your issues addressed through the system itself. So, by being a member of a political party, you have a right to put forward policy proposals and to participate within the party itself. But also, you can raise the profile of your issue within the party and develop the necessary contacts that are crucial for your organization and are crucial for you in furthering your issue. These contacts include members of parliament, cabinet ministers, critics, staffers, campaign managers, and fellow party activists. And, obviously these people are all indispensable to furthering your issue area, your proposal, your policy idea, to decision makers, wherever that may be. So by developing these networks, you're tapped into a resource that the average citizen or the average member of any organization doesn't necessarily get. Because now you're part of an important constituency. This is a constituency that's responsible for electing the member of parliament and electing the party to whatever position of power it happens to be at. So for them, you're a very valuable member. And as much as you need them to further your issue, to talk about it, you're now part of the apparatus that got them elected, and so you're also mutually very valuable to the members to the cabinet and to the party as a whole. So, this provides you greater access that, again, the average constituent or the average citizen doesn't have available to them. So, a few ways to just initially get involved, and that's by becoming a member of the political party. You can become a member for an affordable annual fee. So, for example, if you're a youth, I think it's $10 annually to be a member of the NDP. There are different discounts for different groups. So for seniors, there's a different annual fee. So once you're a member, you can participate fully by attending convention and doing different things. But if you want to get involved, immediately, you should approach the riding association. Their information should be available online. You can attend their meetings and get involved with different events. If you are a youth and you work with youth, you should encourage them to get involved with youth chapters. In addition to the riding association, youth chapters are often linked with the local university in some way and are a formal part of the political party and are directly involved. And there's many ways to get access to the political party that you otherwise wouldn't as a part of a youth chapter. So just to emphasize again the importance of political parties, I'll point to our work with Equal Voice. So, Equal Voice, we obviously have our own mandate. We want to encourage the public to elect more women into government, but we're also trying to train and encourage women to run for office. We provide, resources and workshops and events to give women the skills to get elected and all of that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, a lot of power rests with the political parties themselves. So every election period, Equal Voice approaches the leaders of various political parties and asks them to make a pledge that they'll nominate 1/3 of their candidates in women in winnable ridings. So a winnable riding is a riding where a woman or a member of that party has a chance to win. So as opposed to an unwinnable riding, which is a riding where the party in question is not competitive. So we encourage parties to make that pledge and the leaders to make that pledge, because at the end of the day, we know that ridings have, in some cases, like the Liberal Party, the leader can nominate candidates in specific ridings. The NDP, on the other hand, have a policy where they ask each of the riding associations to ensure that they have enough women running for the nomination process, as well as reaching out to minority groups as well to make sure that minorities are running in for nomination. And so by engaging political parties, we're able to get a direct result almost, something that's quicker than just changing the social mentality of people and getting women to run in numbers, but also we're going straight to the source of how women get elected, which is the political party, and making sure that they make it a priority. But Equal Voice is a multi-partisan organization, and a big part of our work is engaging parties, and we call on members, people who are either elected members or members of political parties, staffers, people who are just generally partisan, to use their networks to get involved and to work through, in addition to working with Equal Voice, work through the various political parties to raise the importance of our issue, which is ultimately to get more women elected into government. So it's important to not just to advocate for the election of women into politics, but to also have these relationships and these networks within the political parties, so that from the inside and from the outside, we're encouraging them to get on board with our focus. So there are a number of different ways of looking at political parties. They're all valuable, and I think a lot of people are quick to assume that parties that aren't in power are in some way less valuable than those that are, which I'm sure we all know is not necessarily true. Each party plays a different role and an important role in getting issues on the agenda and debated, and is I would say equally crucial. So the governing party, which in our case is federally, is the Conservative Party, plays a very important role in that they're the ones who are able to put forward measures within different departments and agencies, and put forward legislation knowing that it will likely be passing through the House of Commons or the Senate. So approaching them is obviously very different than approaching the official opposition or third parties. The official opposition and third parties, so the official opposition being the Liberal Party, and third parties are those that are also in opposition but aren't the official opposition, so the NDP and the Bloc Québécois. They all play a role in raising the discourse of your issue and can also present their own legislation through private members' bills. And all of that is also valuable. Private members' bills can easily pass for various issues. Often that's an easy, not an easy, but a good way to get an issue to the floor by approaching a member of parliament or a critic in an area of specific focus. So we'll go back and talk about just quickly. There are cabinet ministers, and they're responsible for specific issue areas. But each political party also assigns critic portfolios. So they'll assign what is like a shadow cabinet. So for each cabinet minister, there is a representative from the other political parties that represents that issue and advocates for it. So, for example, the environment critic with the NDP or the Liberal Party can put forward and pass a bill without having the support of the government in the House of Commons, which we recently saw with the climate change bill from the NDP that passed through the House of Commons, and that's obviously something that was largely in consultation with advocacy groups and volunteer groups, NGOs that helped to push that bill through by working with the NDP's environment critic, and that bill can still pass in our current system. But also just in discourse and raising issues. So you can approach an MP on a specific issue if it's important and significant enough, or it's something that's pressing and urgent. They can raise it during question period. They can put out statements and press releases. They can bring it to a committee so that the committee that's focused in that issue area can have a hearing on that issue, and perhaps it can later go to the House of Commons. So it's important to engage all of the political parties as they each play a very important role. So I think now would be a good time to talk about meeting with decision makers and who you want to meet with and what's important. So at some point, once you've established your organization, you've become involved with the political party, you've developed a base of contacts, and you've raised your credibility, you want to start meeting with decision makers. And it depends on what you're looking to achieve, but I would not be hesitant to meet with as many people as you can. It's important to make sure that you push your issue in as many fields as possible, as long as it's relevant, of course. So you might want to meet with city councillors, members of parliament, members of provincial parliament, cabinet ministers, or critics of a certain portfolio. If you're doing community work, even if the work you're doing is municipal in nature, is a municipal issue that's just very local, it's still good to meet with your member of parliament or your member of provincial parliament or MLA on that issue, because they're going to be a good resource for you in endorsing what you're doing. They might have access or be able to share information with you about federal or provincial grants that you can use for your community project. And often members of parliament and members of provincial parliament are looking to connect with constituents in new ways to engage them, in part to get them to vote in the coming election to re-elect them, but also to get more support for other issues and to do outreach when there isn't an election as well. So for them, it's valuable to tap into a organization, a new group, and build that relationship. So if you're able to, even if you're doing a local project, meeting with a member of parliament, getting a letter of endorsement for a grant you're applying for is very useful. So we can go now through just some tips on when meeting and preparing to meet with decision makers. So basically, you want to be polite, persistent, you want to use your networks, and you want to leave no stone unturned. So setting up as many meetings as possible, and trying to ensure that you do get to meet with the key decision makers. Now, setting up a meeting shouldn't be too difficult of an undertaking, but it can take some time to get through to an MP. Their schedules are often very chaotic and they change rather quickly, and they're also planned far in advance. I'm saying MP, but I mean this for all decision makers. Um, you know, they could be located at the riding office or at the either the Hill office or the office in the capital city. In which case you might be interested in meeting with a staffer. But if you're persistent enough, you should be able to schedule a meeting with the representative. Ideally, you want to be able to contact them well enough in advance, and be flexible in offering different dates for the meeting. You want to have already built a rapport in some sense with the person you're meeting with, or have contacted them in some way previously. So this may include writing to them, writing letters to them, inviting them to events that you are hosting, and otherwise making them aware of what the work of your organization. This could be sending them your press releases for your organization, or what have you. Their staff will remember you, and your organization should be one of their regular contacts, or if it's not, they should be somewhat familiar with you or have heard from you before. So the best way to set up a meeting with them is simply to call. And again, you should be flexible and upfront about what you're looking for. You want to be able to summarize your position in a simple one-sentence statement, as well as your request. As well as your request in a similar simple statement. So you want to know they should know what you expect from them from the meeting when you make the request. So at the meeting, you should have prepared in advance a one-page document or handout about your organization and your objectives. You should be concise and clear. Elected officials are inundated with documents and appeals and literature, on a daily basis, and they rarely have time to read all of it. So even if their staffers are even their staffers are pressed for time. So if you can prepare something that's concise and to the point, it would go a long way in helping them to be able to follow up after the meeting, and also demonstrating a sense of professionalism on your part. You need to think through ahead of time exactly what you want from your elected official. Too often, and I've seen this when I've met with groups when I was working for a member of parliament, too often individuals and groups arrange a meeting with a representative, present their case, and either they don't know what they want from the individual, they don't know what they're asking their member of parliament, or what they're asking from them is either irrelevant or not possible. So before you attend the meeting, you want to have prepared exactly what follow-up you want the representative to do for you. You can ask them to write a letter of support for you. That would be usually helpful, or an endorsement, something that's specific. So for a grant proposal, or to a letter of support for an event that you're doing, or something of that nature. You might want to ask them to support a specific piece of legislation that's already been proposed. So can you please support Bill C-300? It would be great if we had your support on this bill. Or maybe you want them to write or move a piece of legislation. And perhaps you're approaching them for, asking them to propose a piece of legislation on child care space, a national child care policy, or what have you, and that's what you have, a new suggestion or a new way for them to do it, and this is your proposal. You might ask them to make a public statement in support of an issue, put out a press release, or you might be asking them to introduce you to someone who's a higher level decision maker. Perhaps this is a contact of yours that's an MP, and you want them to introduce you to a cabinet minister or the leader of the party to get your issue further considered. Your one-page note should clarify exactly how you wish for the elected representative to follow up with you. You should also prepare on the personal side for the visit, know the individual, their interests, and the causes that they care about, and prepare to engage them on this level. You should also note the MP's position or the representative's position and their party's position, because you want to be able to use this information to prepare for the topics of your discussion. You must have different notes, different strategies, and different tactics for every representative that you meet with. Don't assume that all of the meetings are going to go the same way. You should not use the same script because you want your meetings to be engaging and not passive. So it's not about, you're having a conversation about the issues that you're teaching them, you're not giving a lecture. You want to engage them and be able to also ask them questions so that there's a give and take in the dialogue. So part of that is finding common ground in areas of interest. Even if they've never dealt with the specific issue that you're presenting to them, but they've dealt with something similar, or in the past perhaps this was a personal interest of theirs, you want to find some common ground that you can build off of in areas of interest. You want to also be relevant to their current existing agenda, while also providing new information and a new perspective. So you want to show them why what you're presenting is part of their broader focus. So let's say you have a member of parliament who's very engaged with the community. You want to show them why your project is part of their engagement with the community, why it's important to the riding, and why it fits in with their overall vision and approach. You want to be organized and prepare your presentation in advance. And if you're going with a group of people from your organization, make sure you don't take more than 4 people. I would say 3 is the most for me, but 4 is also acceptable. And you want to choose the best speaker in your group to lead the discussion, and you want to meet with all the members of your group in advance of the meeting to prepare, make sure everyone's on the same page, that and that you've organized who's going to say what and when. So ultimately, when you're having this meeting, you have a number of objectives. Your main objectives are to inform the member, the representative, about your goals and activities and the needs of your organization. You want to inform them of the social needs of your community. You want to involve the MP in the work of your organization, so you want them to, either attend an event or to show support, or to do some advocacy work for you, to invite members of their community and what have you. You also want to develop a bond of trust so that your organization is considered a source of information for your community. This is what we were talking about earlier. You want to be an expert, and you want your MP to leave the meeting feeling like not only that you got something out of the meeting, but that they got something out of the meeting as well. And you want to offer your expertise. So your MP also has specific interests. They want to be well informed about the events in their constituency. This is where you come in. You're there to inform them. As much information as you can provide about things that are very specific to the riding are crucial to them and why it matters to them specifically. They were, again, looking for a reliable contact for information about the constituency, someone who is linked to a larger network. So a big part of what you should be advocating or talking about in your meeting is how connected you are to a larger community, to either other organizations interested in that issue, or to a population that's let's say you're focused on educating young women. Maybe you're working with certain schools in the community. The numbers that are involved there, the different actors that are engaged. MPs are looking to maximize their time and being able to reach as many people as possible. And and they want to be, the last point about what MPs are looking for at the meeting, or just generally, is they want to be acknowledged for the positive work that they do politically. So you should, part of building a relationship with the member of parliament or a representative, city councillor or otherwise, is building that trust also by not just going to them when you have an issue or you want to present something or you are concerned about something that they've done, but you want to reward them. So by, your organization can put out a message about, this member like thank you to, so-and-so for the great work that they've done on this issue, or even sending them notes of thanks whenever that they do something that's politically positive in your opinion. that positive reinforcement really does go a long way to building a good relationship. And just a quick thing, MPs do not want to be talked down to or belittled, have their time wasted, or see repetitive visions of the same argument from the same different groups or the same groups. So you want to make sure that every time you meet, you're having a positive engagement, even if you disagree on the topic, something that you're still positively engaging with them and building building a good relationship that's mutually beneficial. So a big thing that you need to keep in mind is also the follow-up. So call the MP, thank them for their time, send a card or letter, write a brief press release for local papers that reinforces the message you delivered to the representative. So, talking about the issue, saying that you met with them, and just putting out the same statement. This is part of raising your profile, making it known to the representative that you're present in the community. If they see that part of your press release has been picked up or that it's been circulated, they'll know that you're a group that's influential and that should be paid attention to, and they'll know that your message is consistent publicly as well as privately. You want to inform members of your organization that you've met with the member parliament, and if it's applicable and it's not stepping out of bounds, you can put in the outcome of the meeting that you had with the representative, and this is good for posting online or in newsletters, and it generates activity that it shows that your group is also generating activity and taking on new initiatives. You want to make sure that what you tell the media is exact same as you tell the MP, and you want to set up next meeting or follow-up on specific issues. So if the member says they're going to do something specific, you want to make sure that you have, I'll contact you in 2 weeks. We can follow up on this, or if they're going to follow up on a piece of legislation, let's meet and we can, discuss this. Again, we can re-examine, we can look at a draft, we can, follow up. And make sure to put your MP on your mailing list. Invite them personally to all of your events. And, you'd be surprised. A lot of MPs are happy to come out to community-based events. They're often looking for them. When MPs or MPPs or MLAs go back to their riding during the break weeks or riding weeks, they're often looking to fill their calendars with outreach activities. And if you're organizing an event that's pertinent to them, that's going to reach a good wide audience, they'd be more than happy to attend. So be sure to invite them. Their attendance also helps to raise the profile of your organization as well. So it's mutually beneficial. So let's move on to I think what is the final part of what I'll be discussing is how to be convincing and to be present throughout. So just a few points. You want to make your movement, your idea, your organization, or your issue ever present, always there in a sense. So you want to be putting out information as often as possible. You want to be hosting events, writing a blog, updating a website, putting out petitions, press releases, editorials, letters to the editor, as often as possible, because you want to make sure that your issue is not just seen by the public, but is seen by the public in a way that gets them to involve their political representative, or in a way that the media picks it up and your political representatives notice it themselves, or their staff notices that this issue is there and is pertinent. And you want to be read, to be seen, and to be heard as often as possible, especially in the mainstream media and in visible places, because you want decision makers to notice you ultimately. And you have to be ready to respond. This is something that's particularly important in terms of our news cycles. So a news cycle is when the media gives the attention span of the media in a sense. So an issue comes up, you want to be ready to respond to, for example, if your member of parliament makes a statement, the political party makes a decision, or the government makes a decision, or puts out a statement, or takes an action that you either agree or disagree with, you want to be ready, and your organization have the the ability to turn over a response and publish an opinion as quickly as possible so that it's picked up by the media as soon as possible. This could be a press release, this could be posting things on the website and circulating, letters or editorials and things of that nature as soon as possible. And this this will ensure that your response is affixed with their action and is immediate. If you wait too long to respond, you're not going to get the attention that that your response most likely deserves. You also want to be making your own news. A big part of this can be through blogs and through being involved in social media, which I think is obviously very important, but probably best for another workshop. But also, if you have an event, you want to make sure that you have the relationship with the local media, so that they come out, they cover the event, and that you get the attention that you deserve. Building those relationships is key to getting that focus, and it's key to getting the profile necessary for the political field, the political system to pay attention. And lastly, you want to be relevant during elections. It's not easy to get your issue on the agenda during an election, but once you do, it makes a great deal of difference. This is sometimes easier for local elections, so municipal elections, but can be for the races that are happening in your riding. Your organization can host an all-party debate, welcoming candidates from all the political parties to debate the issues. You can have a debate on the environment. You can have a debate on women's issues. We used to do this with Equal Voice. We would invite members of parliament from different political parties to debate issues broadly, but also women's issues. It's a good way to kind of give focus to your issue, but also in most cases, if you're well established, candidates will not turn down the opportunity to have another platform to debate. You can write into the papers and publish on the issues of the day, or you can write to the candidates about your issue area and then publish their responses publicly and distribute them. Send out press releases about their responses to the media. And you should attend town halls, debates, and be sure to ask questions and be heard. An election is a good time to push an issue, especially if it's something that's locally engaging for the candidates who are trying to raise their profile in the riding specifically, and also for municipal elections. So ultimately, once you've built these networks, once you've gotten involved with the political party, once you've met with MPs, or representatives and what have you, you want to stay in touch with them and build a personal relationship. This extends to not just the representatives, but their staffers and journalists as well. You want to attend unrelated events in the community, as well as related events to your issue area, so that you're seen. Anytime that you see your member of parliament or the representative that you've met with, make sure that you chat with them and build that rapport. When they see that you're a key player in the community and in the movement that you're working within, they'll be more inclined to meet with you on a regular basis, and to get involved with your cause more readily. So I think that's what I have for the most part here in terms of advice that I can give. I think I can just impart some basic things, which is to say, a lot of what we do politically is personal. It's a very challenging thing to advocate for political change. It takes a lot of time, and as you can see, as much as there is to learn about the institutions and the structure and the system itself, a lot of it comes down to building a relationship with individuals. It's very personal in that sense as well, and it's definitely a part of a process. One last thing I would add is, I want to talk about this more, but for the sake of time, I won't. But I think it's important, and this is why I think these workshops are really great. Is creating networks of association. A lot of times people will develop organizations or groups or projects that probably overlap in some way, if not completely, with things that already exist. Um, and it's important to connect with like-minded people and to use our networks and to use our peers and to use similar groups to work with each other, to pool resources, which unfortunately are very scarce nowadays, and also to pool numbers. Because using a bigger network, being able to say that you're connected with all of these other groups on an issue area makes it easier to get the necessary attention from decision makers, as we discussed. So, make sure that your position is worth something to you, but also worth more than your personal satisfaction, that it's meaningful, and that you're committed to it. And once if you have the dedication, and the passion for what you're doing, everything else will inevitably follow. I'm pretty confident in saying that.